You are listening to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where illumination and inspiration is but a click away. With so many genre topics for you on everything that you need to know in life. We celebrate and share the people who have taken the journey before you and who are now here to serve you with their wisdom and their knowledge. The next show coming up is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Ignite Your Heart and Soul right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sara Troy. And my wonderful guests who are repeat offenders, as they've come here many times before to share their wonderful wisdom, is Christina Hill. She used to be with me on Channeling Ascensions. We did that show for a while. Please go back and listen to them. You will literally take wings. And Temple Hayes, who's also been with us a few times here to share her wonderful wise knowledge. Today you are going to take flight. We're going to lift your heart and your soul and your spirit, but we're going to talk about something rather practical. Ego. It's very, very earthbound ego. Where do we cross the line when it's the sense of self-pride, pride in what we're doing, taking leadership on something that we see because we're born leaders? When does it step into the ego? I have to admit, I have done shows before with people that I've interviewed that have been very humble when they first started their journey, then kind of dipped into the Kool-Aid a little bit and that ego rose. And when it does, it kind of dilutes the message. So how do we find the balance between ego and leadership, pride and self-awareness and owning our own voice? That is something that really is a balancing job. And it requires us to stay centered in our heart and our soul and our spirit, for that is always the guidance that we seek and that will always lead us on the right way. Well, we're going to open up those channels today and let them flood down through for you. So let me introduce you to Christina Hill.
Thank you. It's just an honor, Temple and Sara. Thank you for inviting us to fly, and this is taking flight. Sara, you have just opened up this energy field so well. Anyone listening in that's in a role of leadership of any kind, they see themselves advancing in any way, whether student, parent, in your career or whatsoever. This is a great show then to just to come inside and look at what is driving ego, or rather ego management, and
yes.
How do we fly with that, right?
Yeah.
How do we stay authentic in that, no matter what our pathway may be? So I'm very honored. Thank you very much.
And both you and Temple have taken flight. You've both worked together at Carnegie Hall with Michael Pascal. And, you're both leaders in your own right, but you didn't start off that way. And of course, when the demands are upon you, as you know, Temple, the lots of demands have been upon you. How do you stay humble? How do you stay centered? Temple?
Well, someone once said, that ego means edging God out.
Ooh, I like that.
And so when I look at wherever I have been in my life, or how society measures a certain amount of accomplishment, I mean, for me, I have an inner promise that I'll never forget where I've come from.
That's it.
So to me, everyone that is showing up in the movie of my life daily, whether it is the waiter, the PR person,
yes,
the well-known person that actually knew where I lived, to me, I have developed within myself a reverence and a humility that every one of those people are just as important. And they're all part of this great movie, that we call life. And so it's very important, because when we start getting into a place that we're better than, we're definitely edging God out, and we have forgotten from where we've come. And I love what you said, Christina, because it also relates to people that are parenting children.
Yes.
So you take a child that is born with this all-knowing presence, that has this awareness. And ultimately, the role or the job is to draw out what the child already knows. And often it's the parents' egos
Yes.
that say, well, I'm going to do for you the things that weren't done for me, and I know exactly what you need, and do as I say, not as I model. That's ego also. So it's how anything that appears to be big people over little people, or anytime we lose sight that all of life needs to be win-win, or that we could actually believe in some level of competition. To me, all those things dismiss and discount. And we're actually showing ourselves that, well, we don't have as much esteem as we thought we did.
Right. And that's a big one. Absolutely. People say to me, do you interview celebrities? I said, yes. Everybody that comes on here is a celebrity. Everybody is celebrating their journey in life. And they're honoring us with the journey and the skills and the knowledge and the wisdom that they've learned. And they're now sharing that with us. What a wonderful gift. Of course, they're a celebrity.
There are no teachers, there are no students, really.
No.
If you're really looking at the energy that we're all, and it's not fluffery to say this, it's like we're all energy. If we can get that, the eye, right? The inner eye to see the pureness of each and every sentient being, you know, we can see the plants as our teachers, and they are. And so we're learning continuously. I just feel it's important to highlight this as we're going into, you know, examples of this as well. Is in our ascension, you know, we grow, we stretch, we reach, and then we do come across these figurines in the movie of our life that remind us of where we have come from. And Temple, you pointed to this so well. It's like when I was recently in Los Angeles at the Vortex event, their Mind Dive release.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we were hanging and kicking it there, dancing, and it was great. But just prior to that arrival, you know, I went into a Starbucks, and there was a gentleman there who I knew was without a home. And most of you know that I've been homeless for many, many years. So I just kind of zeroed in my energy. I saw that soul. And I ordered him some food and some tea, and the barista went and took it to him. And I just said, don't say anything at all. Just make it really normal and natural. And I was speaking to Michelle just before we began the show. And I said, you know, that gentleman's name was Richard. And I learned a lot from Richard because he just took in the food. He was sitting there so quietly and so appreciative. Yeah. And he found peace in that moment. And that was just glorious. And it just reminded me, like, no matter, Christina, no matter what happens, no matter where you go, just remember that. Remember what it's like to really have no place to go. And like that invincible compassion, kindness, humility. And it was really cool to get up on stage then, you know, Michael Beckwith and some of these quote unquote big names, right? And to feel that, like, yes, I know where I have come from, and I can honestly say I treat everyone the same, and that's just such an amazing feeling, right, on the inside, to know that you keep that wholeness, the purity. Yeah.
We don't realize actually those little moments. I see you, I care for you, you count. We don't realize more than feeding the food. You're feeding the soul and the heart, because more people are hungry and starving to be seen, to be counted, is my life even worth living? Should I even be here? Because that nobody is seeing them, nobody is hearing them, nobody is counting them. They're just dismissing them all the time. Unless you are of this bracket or of this importance or of this, you don't count. And this, I have a series right now called The Forgotten Children. And we have not to forget our children as they grow, how we need to nurture, love, and guide them. But what about the inner child? What about the child within that's been lost? That you talked, Temple, you know, about the ego, but it's also, I think, the insecurity. You know, when you're being a parent and you want, I know right because I'm mum and dad. But very often, if that child is inside, they're sharing their insecurity. They're not sharing their strength. And that lording over people comes from that insecurity. And that comes from being neglected in some form or other. Temple?
That's right.
Right. No doubt about it. But then, you know, realizing the wisdom that you need help and you need support and you need to ask other people or get educated, you know, read some of the programs of how to to create a system that allows true self-esteem within children, get the information that one needs. And that's part of what you're referring to, Sarah, is that, it's easy for people to get somewhat of a know-it-all kind of attitude.
Yeah.
And I've been like you, I've been around a lot of well-known people, and sometimes I choose not to be around those well-known people again, because our values are different. I don't, I'm not going to go in a restaurant and say, get me where's my stuff? And, all that. It doesn't model. So for me, what I created in my own mind, I would rather live the book I'm writing, rather live it than to not live a book I have written. And I think that, there's such a responsibility that comes with being a leader.
That's
There's
it.
a responsibility that comes when the spotlight is on you.
That's right.
Be able to exemplify to an authentic person that really is whatever people want to know that you really are. It's shocking when you read a book and then you meet a very different person.
Oh boy.
That's right.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Shocking.
Are you the same person I pre-interviewed or that I read the book? Oh, yes, I know.
Exactly. And so it's not to handpick and look at them and what they're doing wrong, but they're also teaching us how we don't want to be.
Right. Which is an
Drinking their own
awesome
Kool-Aid,
lesson.
right? Yeah.
It's an awesome lesson.
Yeah.
Yes. An awesome
Let's talk about leadership, because people assume that leadership means you're above. But people don't realize that leadership is that you're just taking point. You're leading people, you're delegating, right? Everybody has a role to play, and a leader has the vision to be able to see which role you're playing for the greater good, for the whole, for the entire village, right? Because a leader just has an ability to see, and more encompassing, and to inspire other people to be what they are to the equation. A leader isn't, it's my way or the highway.
Right.
A leader inspires the strength, the abilities, the passion in other people for the greater good. In other words, they are the conductor of that orchestra.
Yes. Yeah.
Christine, what do you think on leadership?
A fella told me a long time ago, so Othello is a blue being of light that just kind of came into my life very suddenly in 2015 after like addictions and all kinds of darkness in my life. And Othello told me right from the very beginning to let go of these ideas, to not get my mind all wrapped up in leader, channeler, coach, best-selling, all of these things. To be very cautious about, what's going on in the mind. I think we're talking about ego here. So whenever these concepts come up, I actually don't think about it a lot. I don't call myself a leader. I don't call myself a healer, even though Othello has healed people. And it's really cool. I think it's good to do that and to keep oneself in check.
Yes.
And rather than like anything else happening, it's more like, can we stand wherever, on a stage or wherever, and just shine and be the vehicle, and then walk away from that without necessarily patting ourselves on the back or criticizing ourselves. These are all games of the mind. So I've tried to just like stay out of that is really the answer here for me. That's really worked well for me thus far. And I so appreciate what you're both saying here, looking at the models for leadership, those that we're looking to, also being careful about like looking to these people and then thinking that they are something
more than they are.
Yes.
And then we're disappointed when they fall, because we're the ones that have put them up on this unrealistic pedestal.
But the mind will always compare, despair.
Yes.
Is like, and then suddenly we're not enough, or we've failed in some way. We can't possibly be like that, and all of this stuff. So just spending time every day and a good meditation to detach from all these labels. And then, I feel strong about the leadership energy that comes through me. And that's, or the I am, not the me, but the I am. Yeah.
Would you say that leadership is just opening up a channel, opening up a road for other
Yes.
people to walk in?
That's it. I feel. What do you feel, Temple?
Well, it's so relevant to, our own experience, of course. I mean, for me, it wasn't like I sat on a course early on in my life and said, I want to be a leader. I was the opposite. I was the opposite. I would be like, why is it that you want me to be the president of the student body? Or why didn't anybody show up at the AA meeting and you want me to talk? Why? I was like, oh no, I want to stay,
Yes. Why am I doing video instead of just audio?
Exactly. I want to be extroverted around, my friends, but I want to be introverted when it comes to everything else. But I finally accepted, without the path of resistance, that is what I'm here for. Part of it as a soul is my old ancient tribal relationships with guiding and directing. And so what I say about your answer to your question, Christina, is that to me, it is the capacity to hold the potential for what is possible for other people, and to allow a space that with their own understanding and their own energy field, that they're able to step into that, and that they know they earned that. So to me, the power as far as a true leader is that to know deep down that it's not something that you have done, so you can pat yourself on the back. It's a space that you have allowed someone else, because when someone else knows that they are able to do it for themselves, they've learned it for a lifetime. So it is like that that saying that says, I kept making someone fish, or I taught them how to fish, and now they can feed themselves for the rest of their lives. That's really what it's about, is that aspect of it, of empowering others that they have the answer inside themselves. And at the end of the day, with 2,000 people and thousands of other people connecting through here, somebody has to make a decision about something.
Yes, exactly.
And more often than not, it winds up to be either my key team leaders, or it winds up that it comes through me. So I hope that's helpful. But I think it's important to realize that not everybody is a leader because they thought it was a great idea.
Right. Yes. But some people
It's
are
like
led.
destiny. I was like, obviously there's no getting out of this. Okay, I surrender.
Exactly, because that's the role that you've been shown to be, right? And it's, you didn't start off that way, but because of life's experiences and what you've learned along the way, you now have that knowledge to pass on, that wisdom. I always refer to these shows and the people that are on them as people who have stepped into their beautiful gifted instrument. And then what I'm creating here is an orchestra. And each genre of shows that we do here on Self-Discovery Media are their own orchestra, because they are addressing those particular topics. But they wouldn't be an orchestra without the beautiful instruments that people have learned to play in their own lives, their own gift, their own role, just like you guys have done, and a willingness to come together without ego to bring that instrument to an orchestra that now can, in harmony and in synchronicity, play music that resonates out to people in invitation. And the conductor is not the leader. All the conductor is doing is just making sure that the fluidity of energy is always in flow, because that's the role of the conductor. And when we understand that it doesn't matter how important your solo is, without the orchestra, what would you be?
Yes.
That's very true. Yes. So we're called in the role of leadership, and yet we don't make an identity of that for ourselves. And then everybody wins. Everybody plays.
Yes. And who wants the burden of having to make all the decisions? It's knowing who to turn to that really knows that subject best, that you know that you can count on, because you know that's their instrument. That's their gift, right? That's what leadership is. As you said, Temple, you don't always make the decisions. You've got an excellent team around you that know what the greater picture is about, as I know you do as well, Christina.
Yes,
And
that's right.
they can go and do because they know from being in your essence, being in your energy and your teachings, what they need to do. They don't need to constantly look to you. What do we do now, boss?
Right.
Yes,
Nor
yes.
would we ever design anything like that, right?
No,
Yep.
it's, you know, I think that is just being open to those channels and allowing those beautiful people to join your orchestra. And then it's about the harmony and the creativity of the pieces that you can create. You know,
Yes.
that's the beauty of it. It's like when you step with everybody's voice, everybody's instrument, and you see what becomes. It's so much bigger than any one person.
Yes. So moving into leadership of any kind, minus ego, I think that was our you know, our starting point here for liftoff. And I just wonder if we care to share, perhaps through experience or just a felt sensation, how do we embody this, stepping into leadership in any capacity? And then we do so with total humility and surrender and, you know, a real mindful eye, honestly. So how do we do this and put it into the practical?
Tempo, you can lead on this one. I've got a thought here, but you lead on this one.
I think over time one becomes clear, you know, what do you really want to represent? You know, if you have 2 or 3 words, if it's your eulogy and someone's speaking about you, and I live by that a lot. When I have a situation or a circumstance and I ask myself, is it going to make my 45-minute speech? You know, and if you're real famous, you might get an hour and a half. You know? that's about it. You know, that's about it. And so I asked myself, will it make that speech? And more often than not, the answer is no. So I don't have to hold on to that. But I have become keenly aware of what are key words I want spoken. And when people talk about me, I want them to remember me as, oh my gosh, she had so much energy.
Yes.
And she was all about life. Okay, there's my 2 words.
Yes.
So it's not hard because I look to my life then daily of what do I believe about energy? What do I model about it? What do I need to change in my belief system that says when you get to be a certain place in your life, when you compartmentalize energy, how much do you have or whatever, how am I really still fitting into that mold? And that's where the humility comes, because it's the willingness to make changes that you need to make when it's not in harmony with how you say you want to be remembered.
Right.
Life is the same way. You know, people know, don't come around me if you just talked about you took your pet and turned it into the pet shelter. You do not want to be around me because I am an advocate for all living things. You know, so I'm known for those areas. Not because of a business card or a title or something, but because I measure my life according to both of those things.
I would say people remember you because of your song. You know how it doesn't matter how long a person has passed, but their song lives on. Others may, you know, reinvent it, but they always honor the message. So basically, it's be true to your song, because in your song is your message. And it doesn't matter how people take it or what they do with it. The fact that it's still alive, you know, means that you had an impact on life. And don't we all want to leave something behind that keeps serving humanity?
Yes.
Either way, it's from the spiritual view, spiritually speaking, and that's just a word too, spiritually speaking, these are just, you know, but feeling it really, we do leave behind. There's no possible way we could not leave behind things, you know.
And what we leave behind is what we really want to work on. That's
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we could tune our song and our frequency. I think that's Temple, you just pointed to that beautifully. It's like people know your frequency is all in favor of life and animals and support of living beings. That is a frequency.
Yeah.
So just even like tuning into that, people feel that that is your like your thumbprint that you leave in the ether, you know, and that stuff is real. It's not just words. It's we see it with microscopes and things. You know, it's
and it shapes
cool. Yeah,
it shapes you throughout your life. You know, it shapes you and guides you into decisions that you make and things that you do and how you exemplify what's important to you. It's a great roadmap, if you will.
Yes.
You know, for both of you, you've had what I quote a death. I mean, our first show, Temple, was, you know, are you living to die? You know, are you dying to live? You know, it's, you know, so many people are living a zombified life because they haven't connected and they're waiting for someone else to plug them in and they don't realize you're walking around with the plug. You're just looking for a socket, right? You know, be your own energy, be your own generator and step into something, and then you will see, you know, your all quantum energy and hertz and everything rise. But, and for Christina, you most certainly had, you know, a death of a way of life and stepping into a new life. I think that don't be afraid of endings. Don't be afraid to face your life and go, you know what? I'm not living my instrument. I'm not living my potential. Where is my passion? Why am I not stepping into that passion? Because your passion is your instrument. You know, all life counts. Every life counts. Every single particle on this planet is an energy source. And when we raise up that frequency, and we make it into something that literally resonates on the vibration of love, this planet will literally grow. What a wonderful world to be a part of. But it's not going to get there without our participation in our own lives and in the lives of others. And we have to step out of our own death and step into life. And I think for so many people, they're so afraid of that because, again, life's expectations of what you should be as opposed to what you were innately born to be.
Some of that, I think, goes back to trust as well. Trusting that we are supported, we are taken care of. It's okay to look into the scary, behind the scary dark curtain. It's okay to look at the ending, whatever that chapter may be ending, and then feel our own energy field. A lot of this goes back to the energy thing too. Do we know our own energy really? Can we really, do we know ourselves well enough? And our energy fields, it's going to tell us everything that we need to know. And then we can trust some force is running the circus. There is a force running all of this and taking care of us. If there's no evidence, we can just point to, if someone says there's no evidence of this, well, you are alive. We are alive. We are breathing. The fact that you exist, that means that you're loved. You know, and that we are supported. We are very highly organized beings of energy, and we are supported. It's safe now. You know, everyone listening to this is safe now to look at your energy field, make decisions accordingly. And as you said, Sara, perfectly, it is the now moment, the point of power where we can start to say, you know, that doesn't vibrate well for me anymore. I feel this and it's like, doesn't feel right. I'm going to start to change. I'm going to start to pivot. I have help. I have support. We can just declare that. And yes, the universe is going to rush right in to help us to do just that. And I know that personally because I lived that.
Exactly. You know, that's what I was about to say. We're not talking, you know, out of a manual. You know, we're talking from life experience, from the
dumpster. From the dumpster.
Yeah, exactly. You know, in every single one of us has faced that something in our lives where it's like, this life isn't working for me. You know, I have to be willing to shift. I have to be willing to explore down another path. Somewhere along the line, it became that here is your manual of life. You know, make sure you follow it linearly, step by step. Don't think, don't feel, just obey. And we go, hang on, this isn't igniting my heart and soul. I don't feel connected. I've got these constant messages from, you know, above or wherever, or the earth, beautiful earth, the way it speaks to us. How come it doesn't coincide with what's in the manual? Well, put the manual down. Your best teachings are to take one step in front of the other forward and experience life, because life will show you where you're meant to go, who you're meant to be, and what your service is to this planet.
Yes. Hallelujah.
That's well put, Sara, for sure. You know, it's the unwillingness to allow external things to program you. And I've always said two defining things in our culture is when we went to 24-hour news, and when we gave the ability for all these pharmaceutical drugs to be promoted on commercials and on billboards, and you know, and so it creates when we look at it from a practical, there's the absolute that all is all is, and it's divine. But in the practical aspects of it, you know, we must look at that as leaders that are choosing to lead without ego. It is important to remind people consistently that most of the news channels are owned by 4 or 5 major companies, and they play the same things over and over again. And the only things they play are the things that they know people buy into.
Right.
More than likely,
fear.
Concerned of something happening to them.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a very interesting thing because we don't ever get the full story. You know, you don't ever get the full story. Like in Florida, you know, bless all the children that come here that think that sharks are in every lake we have. You know, and it's so.
And they come on land and they can fly and eat you midair.
They can fly out of the trees and get you because they're a shark, and it's just so sad.
I know.
What has happened to the shark world based upon news. And no one ever said, you know, of all the billions of people, the odds of that happening are the same as you ever being herded by cattle. You know, it's just that you just get these storylines without the full education or the knowledge of the real truth. And so people allow themselves to buy into, you know, all this stuff.
Fear.
Mine, according to scarcity, lack, and fear, of course.
I did a show last week on Sara's View of Life, because I do a show every week just on my own perspective, and it was on permission and allowing. And it was just basically, I've waited all my life for people to give me permission to be Sara. And it was like, I didn't need to listen to anybody else's permission. I had to just give it to myself. I had to allow myself to become. And without judgment, without dictatorship, and just explore Sara and what Sara's meant to be. You know, do you interview like so-and-so? No, I interview like Sara. It's either your cup of tea or it's not. You know, it's okay if it's not. This is my style. And all I am and all I ever can be is Sara. Why do we walk around trying to be someone else because we deem them to be important? And we feel that we're not important unless we are.
Right. Yes. I feel, I just want to piggyback on what you're saying here. Sorry to interrupt here. I just feel compelled to say this. I feel that a lot of it comes from childhood programming as we're children. And we're so innocent, precious, you know, and Temple, I understand that you have a connection with an indigo child, very bright and gifted.
Oh, yes.
And I do myself is with my human son that I'm not with right now, but he's on the planet, and I know that he's doing very well, and maybe one day he'll watch the show. These are the beautiful children that we are gently guiding and allowing that their gifts blossom and develop naturally, really, really with a lot of compassion and providing support. Dictatorship and lording over, none of that, but of course stepping way back and examining ourselves, like look in here as we're parenting. And I think that we as children, when we get into that as adults, as children, it's because we have ourselves been judged, we've been put in the box, you know, we've been told this is how you're going to be, this is or these very words, Sara, you're using, why can't you just and fill in the blank. That is a lot of, you know, parenting talk, conditioning into adulthood. And so I see you've done so well unraveling that sweater. That's really great to give to yourself.
But you're willing to participate in your own life, though. How many people, you know, the point a finger, There's 3 pointing back at you, right? You know, it's so-and-so's fault, my parents' fault, society's fault, this fault. Well, when are you going to decide to put fault aside and make choices for yourself and allow yourself to become what you're meant to become? And the only way you're going to do that is a willingness to explore, to try this, to try that, to listen from the heart, ignite the soul, step into the spirit action, and the mind will know what it needs to know when it needs to know it. The ego is not in the heart of the soul, is it? The ego's in the head.
It's in the head. Yes. Yep.
And children, I mean, children are here to teach us right now. I mean, this is the reason why I'm doing this children's series right now. There's wonderful people doing wonderful things for our kids. But I mean, you know, look at the shootings and how these kids have turned around. They've changed 62 laws around gun control by standing up and saying enough is enough. Really, they've just said, adults, you have let us down. And if we have to take the reins, we're going to take the reins, and we're going to see those changes done. Kudos to them. We need more of them. They're our future leaders. So let us support those decisions now and praise them for what they're doing, but also keep them humble.
That's right.
That's beautiful. It's like Christina was saying earlier, they go, this does not belong in our energetic field.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
This.
Yeah. And, you know, we're meant to resonate at a 580 hertz, you know, vibration as a baseline. And the higher that you go, the more you're stepping into what we call the love vibration. And in that space of vibration, you cannot knowingly harm anyone else. You can't do it. It's against your very beingness. And so, you know, the water, 70% of our body, brain, 90% of our water. If we're feeding the water with love, it's feeding our psyche, our organs, our very beingness, and we've elevated that to whole frequency. And we then draw two people who are seeking that same vibration. And together, just look how we glow. Look how we resonate out. So unification isn't about you losing your identification. It's about bringing your instrument to the orchestra, playing it in a way that just ripples out in invitation to everyone else. So it's don't hold back, but remember when you're running forward that you don't leave people behind, because suddenly you're at the top of the mountain and lording it over everyone else.
Right. The felt difference. You can feel the difference between those two realities.
Yes. Yes.
You really can.
Why do people step into this ego where suddenly, you know, they were humble on their journey, suddenly they got the notoriety, and then suddenly they've stepped into what I say, drinking their own Kool-Aid. You know, is it an insecurity in themselves? Is it a need to be praised to fulfill something in them? Where does that ego come from? Temple?
Yeah, I mean, my immediate sense would be that often it's a deep place of, I didn't really deserve it. I didn't really deserve it. Or it could be, I deserve it, I'm not comfortable with it. And I think it's also important that it's to remember that we could also catch somebody on a very off day.
Yes.
You know, because we all have them. And you know, I've met some of the actresses that are very well known, and the day I met them, it wasn't, let's just say it wasn't their good day.
Right.
my knowing would be that that they would not be that way all the time.
Right.
A very famous person that works with money. I saw a young woman go up to her and say, "You're my role model. Oh my gosh, you are like, I follow everything you do. Would I be able to come and work for you? I would do anything if I could work for you." And she was like in her early 30s. And the woman said beside two other people, "Well, if I did that, you're asking me to fire the person that's right here with me?" And I just felt so sad, you know, for this young woman, because this woman, this major player, had just given a talk about say what you want. And then here's somebody that said what they wanted.
And they were slapped down for it. Yeah.
Like scum.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
I'm like, it was just very clear to me, like, bless you. You know, God bless you. I mean, you just asked people to do what you just totally negated this human being about. And that's not okay. So my best hope is that was like one of her worst days.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. We can be altered, triggered,
Right.
and not even realize it, and then often I know this has happened for me, where the ego arises without our even not knowing it. And then we become aware later on and that was an ego trip right there.
Do you find that there's some people that what I call automation? Yeah, I had somebody on, and I loved his book, and I thought this is going to be a wonderful show. And then basically, there was no conversation. It was just what I call grandstanding, you know, just up there doing his spiel. And I didn't feel any attachment to the spiel. I think he said this so many times. You just plug him in. And I think for some people, they get to a certain stage and everybody has this expectation. Oh, I love you. You're this, you're that. And they feel the need to stay at that level, and people won't love them anymore. And I think sometimes they have to kind of just pull the plug and say, you know what, folks, this is oversaturation right now. I need to withdraw myself. Get back to my heart roots, my soul roots, and come back to you with a different message. But how many are willing to do that because they don't want to lose their audience?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Yeah. What you just said, Sara, is so powerful. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, that's big.
I just want to absorb that for oh, my goodness.
Yeah, that's...
Like, the mind cares so much. Yeah. The mind cares so much about the material wants, the forms, the cars, the houses, the trips, the plans. The calendar is full. We're booked out for 3 years. The audience, social media, the whole thing.
Bombardment.
Yeah, exactly. Boom, 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 boom. I can't stop now. I'm gonna move forward. I'm in this. We're in this now. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I mean, does this sound familiar to people? This is.
It's regurgitation at that point, though, isn't it? It's not identification anymore. I was watching on Oprah's Own the other day, Lionel Richie tell his story. And he was talking about his trip with the Commodores and how people just come and do one LP, and it was another and another and another, and he felt bad the way he left them. And then he was just churning them out because he was popular. He was the flavor at the time. And then his father got sick. And he just pulled the plug and said, I'm going to look after my father. And for 3 years he did. And he said it was the greatest gift to him, not only the time he had with his dad, but also he saw one after another people that were on the same path of him just crash and burn. Because they'd been chewed up and spat out, and they just, burnt out completely. So somewhere along the line, we've got to stay in, as you talked about the meditation and the attunement. I myself, even with doing these shows, I wear all the hats. I've got no one to delegate to. And sometimes I actually have to say, no, I'm taking a few days off. I'm saying no to this. I need to regroup and let the heart and soul reconnect, because otherwise it becomes rather than right? Right? Yes. If you lose the and the real passion behind what you do, and it becomes then it's time to take a break, because otherwise burnout's around the corner. And what does society do? You're a has-been. What's next?
Right.
So we've got to be careful how we step into that ego. We've got to be careful. I think staying humble, staying grounded, or staying connected for me to the heart and soul. That's where my grounding is. If my soul says no, don't argue. It doesn't matter what my heart, but my heart wants to do this. And the soul goes, not going to make it happen for you. It's not your path. And you're going to argue with your soul? I don't think so.
No. Well, you can, but it
you're going to lose.
Yes.
It leads to some issues, that's for sure.
Yes, most certainly.
Noticing. I mean, we're noticing with anything, when we're feeling out of sync, out of tune, just awareness, just basic awareness. Oh, I've really stepped off of my center. Might want to, take a pause or take a few days, whatever that is, but just awareness. And that pull, like the ego has a pull. You will always know it's ego because there is a or a contraction of some kind happening. And that feeling is the sign too. You can look at ego square in the eye. You're going to be okay. It's safe to look at ego and recognize that it is ego, in fact. And sometimes there's a lot of fear, I think, that happens. Like when watching the news and things, it instills the fear. I think sometimes when we go to meditation, and we sit and we look at what's arising, it can be very frightful, what's in there. And it's going to be okay. It does pass. So giving ourselves time to waft in our energy field and be in nature. I think that's a great, or being with the dogs. I have 5 dogs. 5 dogs.
I wish I missed my dog. I actually literally woke up this morning cuddling my dog that's passed 3 years ago and go, I wish he was here. And nature and everything, I think it keeps us humble, keeps us grounded. And and I always say a forest is only as strong as its roots. And when you look at the roots and the matrix of support and food and love, I mean, look how strong a forest is until humans come along, right? And I think also, something that I think is really good to learn to say, no. I'm not going to book myself 3 years in advance. I'm going to book myself at this time period, and then I'll come back and revisit. If your message is that powerful, people will wait for it. Adele, we wait 5 years a time for a record, right? And nobody thinks, she's going to be a has-been. If your message is true, people will wait for it. But honor your own energy. Honor your own compass. Because if you don't, it will be the ego or it will be the burnout that will come and get you. And then you become robotic. And how can people hear you anymore? It's just words. There's no energy behind it.
Yeah, it's very true.
So be mindful, be soulful, be heartful, be connected to self. Honor you, because unless you are not full, how can you be abundant? You need to be abundant so your cup can run over. You can't give if you're depleted.
That's right.
So true.
I love watching Christina's backdrop there.
Yes, the water.
It's
good, right? Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah.
And water is such a conduit too, isn't it? I love water. I live by the water and the sea breeze and the wind that constantly moves things and the trees that rustle and speak to you. I mean, this is where nature can really be, that love that wraps itself around you and says, I've got you. You're not alone. That is that divine speaking through that. And you talked about a lot, Christina, on many of our other shows. Please go back and listen to our Channeling Ascension shows. We talked a great deal about that we're never alone, but as human beings, we feel so isolated. But unless we connect with that heart and soul message, we will always be disconnected. So it's really important to step out of head, step into heart and soul.
Yes.
And that will always guide you right.
That's right. And universe doesn't know anything about alone. That's a human idea. That is a human idea. Loneliness is a trapdoor. And as you walk outside, you will see that life embraces you. Even if all you have, because I've been to Amity Foundation where, I sat with the prisoners and guided a meditation there, and they don't have a lot of access to all the beauty and splendor and grandeur of, ocean and things like this. But what they do have is they have some birds inside, and they make this beautiful melodic sound. And you could just hear, and we channeled that energy. We also walked outside, we touched the leaves, and I passed around an orange. Everyone touched the orange. And if you give that your full attention, like nature, then that's going to be absorbing your cells. You're returning home, and you realize, like, deeply, that we are supported. The loneliness thing is up here, as you said, Sara. It's just, So more and more often moving out of ego and then coming into heart space is really, I think, good ego management. I mean, wouldn't you say, Temple? That's a good system, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
rather than it always needing to be my way, it's the
Mm.
highway. Meaning,
Yeah.
Like,
The
I mean,
higher way.
is it my way or the highway? It really is, rather than
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
my way, but the highway, the highest way, because
Yes.
you live long enough to realize the things you coerce and manipulate and
ooh,
somewhat make happen in your life, that you
yes.
live long enough to realize that it probably would have been best had you just allowed the
Take the highway. Yeah.
highway to really unfold, because those things are not temporary, they are permanent.
Right.
Yeah.
They are aspects of yourself. I mean, when you were talking earlier, I was thinking about, the whole thing now is people talking about how many followers they have on
Yes.
social media. And, that's all nice, but a lot of people buy their followers.
Yeah.
They buy their followers, and it's like, and what's the point? Because it's not organic. It didn't happen naturally.
Right. Yeah.
So they're not really engaged in
No.
what you're promoting and what you're selling and what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's just life is it's so
It's interaction. I mean, people say, how many people listen to your shows? And my answer is all those that are ready to hear.
That's right.
Excellent.
And
oh
it may
my
be one
goodness.
person, it may be a dozen, it may be more. The thing about my Orchard of Wisdom library here, I'm celebrating my 6th year next week on my own network.
Congratulations.
And thank you.
Wow.
And
Congrats,
it's like
Sarah.
2,400 of beautiful shows of wisdom here. We have a library of information which both of you have contributed to. And if you are seeking, learn to listen to the people who've gone before you. They're not paved a path for you to follow. What they're doing is showing you how beautiful it is on that path. And here are some tools and wisdom for you to take with you on your own journey. But you've got to be willing to participate, which means listen, hear, apply. Right?
Yeah. And that it's possible.
Yes.
No matter what.
No matter how many directions you take.
Oh my goodness. No matter what's happened in the past.
And we know that this, human thing is the straight line. I have, I keep reminding my Einstein 1,000 light bulbs, before he got it perfected. I've taken so many different paths on trying to make sure this network really kind of expands out. And I tried this path and this path. I'll give everything a try. And then it comes back to go closed door. Those people have moved on. It's not working. But then maybe that's all I'm meant to do. I'm meant to ignite, I'm meant to open up those doors. They go and find other people to play with. But that's what my doors were open to do. And I just keep on plodding along, doing what I'm doing, because that's what I'm here to do. And it's got to be enough.
That's
So
it.
let what you do be enough. Don't measure it against someone else.
Yeah.
That's right. That's the key.
Yes.
Not comparing yourself to anybody else. You're an original idea. I like to, when I write someone a birthday card or, something on email or whatever on their birthday, I always say, I acknowledge your parents because you were born, but more importantly, I acknowledge you because you've continued to allow yourself to be birthed time and time and time again. And there is a big difference. There's a big
Yes.
Oh my.
Yeah. That emerging self.
Yeah.
That's really recognition. And that's so profound and deep for the receiver of that kind of energy. Really a birthday with spiritual eyes.
Yeah. And why can't we do that more often? Why can't we, instead of just happy birthday generically, why can't we go, I honor your journey? And I'm excited to see where you go next. Isn't that right? Going back to the guy that was homeless and hungry. I see you. I don't just feed you. I feed your heart and soul. That little extra of reaching out to people, and sending them wishes and acknowledge. I am a big follower on Facebook of interaction. I think it's the platform to do it in. And the algorithm obviously will put up what you put out, right? And I have met some wonderful people and I've interacted with wonderful people, and many of them have become the followers because of the message that I bring to them. But if you're just looking for just likes or just, I can't be bothered, I haven't got time for that. Well, that means you haven't got time for that beautiful building of relationships.
Yes.
Because don't look upon it network, what can I get out of them? You look at it, what beautiful relationship can you build with someone, and you have no idea where it's going to go, or how long it's going to be, or what it's going to be. But be willing to start a relationship, a connection, an interaction. You don't know if that interaction is something they needed today, or if it's going to be something that's going to grow into something tomorrow. Just stop projecting what you want to get out of it, and just be what you are in the moment with those people right now. Enjoy the blossoms today, right?
Yes. Pointing back to mindfulness.
Yeah.
Yes, pointing back. Absolutely, yes.
We can be mindful of how we're feeling when we go into these interactions.
Yes.
We can be mindful of the ego. We can be mindful of just listening to this right now. We can be mindful of we can really like shift our focus. Yeah. Thank goodness. Thank goodness we have that ability.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness that we have the ability to be
And when
mindful.
you are present, then you're actually in the now, the gift of the present. And it's like, what do I need to be grateful for right now? Be present. If you're constantly running towards tomorrow, you've forgotten about life today. Being present is one of the greatest gifts. Being in your now. Right?
Home. Yeah, home.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. This is where you reside. No matter where your vehicle takes you, this is where you reside, within you. It's an inside job, right?
So beautiful. This has been an amazing symphony.
Yes.
I've enjoyed this so much. Every droplet, the nectar is so sweet.
I know that you've got to go on, but both of you, what's next for you? And how can people reach out to you? So Christina, what's next? Because I know you've done documentaries, you've Carnegie Hall. I don't know if you're going back. What is next for you? And also how people can get hold of you and Othello.
I really don't have my headspace in that. I just have right now, I literally have right now, and I know I'm sitting here with both of you, beautiful energy fields. And projects-wise, it's on the calendar, it's on our website. But I really don't, I honestly detach myself from all that stuff, and I enjoy that for now. In December, I will be in Carnegie Hall. I'll be with Temple at Carnegie Hall on December 10th, and that's an honor. Yeah. It's an honor and a joy. It's going to be a burst of light and a big party. So I'm excited. And whenever anyone wants to find out more about myself or my story, which is past, it's not now, but it happened, and coaching and manifesting, the celebrities I work with, and retreats and all that good stuff, you can go to athella.org, and that's where you can find all of the material there.
And spell Othello, just so people know the correct spelling.
Oh, sure. It's ATHELLA.org.
Excellent. And again, come back and listen to our Channeling Ascension shows. We really did do some incredible shows, including with Michelle Pascal, which ended up being one that just was 2 hours before we even knew we had spent 5 minutes. We were so immersed.
That was really interesting.
Very interesting.
He's amazing. He's actually here in St. Pete Beach this week. So
wonderful.
Here on campus. And for me, you can go to templehays.com or firstunity.org. And
and just give your correct spelling too for the audio people here.
Is my name is Temple Hayes, HAYES.com.
Excellent.
Or first, FIRST unity.org.
Excellent. And of course, this is the third time we've interviewed Temple here, so please go back and listen to her shows as well. It will be on this posting.
On your show. I love being with you. Thank you.
Love having you back here again. I love the two energies here today. We've created our own orchestra here today, and may it continue to play out a ripple effect and lift up the spirits and feed the heart and souls, and to actually understand the difference between ego and leadership, and understand you are a leader in your own life.
That's right.
And remember to lead from heart and soul and not from ego head. Yes. Then you'll get further.
Yes, you will.
Parting
Thank
words.
you, your soul sisters. Soul sisters, you've elevated the energy. exponential energy here today. Bless you both, and just love and abundance to everyone listening in. I look forward to the next one. This is
There will be a next one for sure. And Temple, like a couple of parting words here for our listeners.
Just remember the answer you're seeking is equally and at the same time seeking you.
Yes, beautiful. Love that one. Love that one.
That's juicy.
Yes, very juicy. And it's all those solutions that you're looking for outside are all residing within you. Open up your channels. You're not alone. Let your divine heart, soul, and spirit connect, and the answers will be there. We are our own answers. So until next time, folks, I hope you've enjoyed this. I certainly have. Please share it. Share the wisdom. Have a lovely night with your friends and then discuss it afterwards. Have you let ego get in the way? What kind of leader are you in your own life? Have you ignited your own heart and soul and your spirit? And don't forget to listen to their past shows too, because it is abundantly filled with beautiful wisdom. So thank you very much, ladies.
Blessed be. Yeah. Blessed be.
Thank you so much. Until next time, folks. Bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show and were inspired to come and visit us at selfdiscoverymedia.com and see what other shows we have for you. And please do visit our selfdiscoverycommunity.org and see how you can be a part of giving back. Thank you very much.